If I told you I danced amongst the stars, would you believe me? Hi, and welcome to my Q&A video. I'm LunaLunestia, the creator of the Elements of Luna webcomic series. I've done the artwork and writing, along with the help of my co-writer Stick Page and my proofreader Amaya in creating the series. And finally, I am doing the Q&A. It's been a long time since I've announced that I've opened up questions and answers for people to ask me, and I am finally releasing it at last. Thank you all for your patience, and let's go and continue on. Indigo76 asked, is Clip Studio Paint a subscription or a buy once? Clip Studio can be both a subscription and a buy once license. Subscriptions often apply to iPads, phones, and tablets, while perpetual license is for Windows and Mac. My use of Clip Studio Paint, I have the perpetual license because I own a PC and laptop. And also, I've been using Clip Studio Paint since it was known all the way back as Manga Studio 5. So I've been a long-time user of the program, way before they even offered the subscription features. So thankfully, I still have their one-time payment, and I can still update even to version 4 of Clip Studio Paint as a perpetual license. When did you make the transition from using traditional media to digital media? Do you still draw with traditional media? Despite most of my work being digital, I still use traditional media. I often sketch traditionally and scan to finish the rest of the work on Clip Studio Paint. Even my comic pages for the Elements of Luna and some for Origins, I never really switched. I still kept with traditional media, and it's more of a mixed media treatment between digital and traditional. And yes, I still draw with traditional media, but I often don't post my works there because they're mostly sketches or I'm experimenting. I would like to return to creating full watercolor paintings again. The only traditional work I often do is sketching my sketchbook or my comic book paper for my webcomic series. What are the key questions you ask when building a character? For building, not designing, a character in writing, ask yourself a few basic questions. Who is the character? What is the character's role? Jobs, morals, good, bad alignment? Or are they really completely gray? What timeline or world is the character from, and what is their background or place of origin? Keep building upon the character and the world their story takes place in, and soon enough you will find yourself creating an entire plot of who the character is, beginning, middle, and end. I could go more in depth, but for now I'll stick with some of the basics. Is your storytelling method character first, build the story around the characters, or plot first, build the characters around the story? When I first started making the Elements of Luna, my storytelling method first started with building the story around the characters first, then eventually began to grow and become more plot driven, and how did the characters react to it. The best thing really to have is create a story Bible that holds all the lore and world building of the story and write with the best ideas written in that story Bible. One of my favorite things to do is to roll a d20 to determine the effect of the plot, and that's something that I do even with my co-writer Stick Page, who has helps with chapter 5 and onwards for a more plot-first structure. It's actually quite fun, and I really suggest you guys try it out with rolling a d20. Low rolls meaning a fail, and when you get that natural 20, it's like a critical success. I highly suggest it. It's really fun, and writing the story, how the dice rolls. How many layers do you use to draw a panel in Clip Studio Paint? You think I keep track of that? Not counting how many exactly, but here's the basis. Sketch, line art, which is optional, color, and then switch gears to work on backgrounds. Repeat the same process, just like with the characters, and then finally, render. Maybe one day I'll make a full video or a live stream of how I create comics with Clip Paint. Who, what, and or where was the greatest influence on your art? That's actually a really good question because I grew up with so many artists over the years that I forgot to keep track of it. My early days, I guess growing up, I grew up with Spyro the Dragon, and I'll just keep it with the video games and shows, movies that I grew up with, and how it influenced me to become an artist today. So, Spyro the Dragon, Legend of Spyro series, Kingdom Hearts, The Legend of Zelda, Fullmetal Alchemist, Sailor Moon. Trying to remember what else. Like I said, there's so many that I lost track. Most importantly, and this will always be dear to my heart, Chronicles of Narnia. That one, growing up with the movie, really had the greatest influence on my storytelling and my artwork. Most people think like, oh, she draws elves and she likes Legend of Zelda and stuff. Like, yeah, that's true. But what really solidified me in loving fantasy and epic storytelling is more likely Chronicles of Narnia. I grew up with the movie for just that lovely fantasy and especially the music, and I love it. So I hope that answers your question. Maybe one day I would make like a list of these are all the artists and the influences that inspired me to be the artist I am today. Quite a long list there. What music or noise works best to keep you focused and motivated? I often listen to instrumental music, music from Jazz Hop Cafe or Lo-Fi Girl. That's to help me with my focus. Sometimes I'll listen to music with vocals depending on my mood, but it's mostly lo-fi while drawing. What also helps is having those Pomodoro, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, forgive me. Pomodoro timers that includes like breaks when I'm in the zone to remind me to stretch and balance my work and life schedule. How long does it take to get the hang of Clip Paint? Clip Paint has so many features, it would take a long time to learn them all. For example, I may be an illustrator and comic book artist, but I am not an animator. And that's a feature I haven't learned yet with Clip Paint. Thankfully, there are a lot of online tutorials and plenty of users that know more about Clip Paint that I don't even know about, and they share it in Clip Studio Ask or Clip Studio Tips, and they share it on YouTube as well. That's something that I need to do as well if I ever want to do more animation. I just been doing kind of like animatics, but making the video in CapCut or Microsoft Clipchamp this whole time. What are your favorite comics? I have a whole list here. For manga, Fullmetal Alchemist, the Legend of Zelda manga series, The Case Study of Vanitas, Frieren Beyond Journey's End, and The Apothecary Diaries. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot more on that part, but those are my top favorites right now. As for American comics, Avatar: The Last Airbender comic series, the Adventure Zone comic series, and for webcomics, Hooky and Marionetta by Miriam Bontrastatur, Cursed Princess Club by Lambcat, Senorita Cometa by Archan, and Suitor Armor by Prepa. Is Clip Paint capable of animation work? Yes, although I don't use that part of the program since my main focus is comics. I did see some professional work with animation from that program. How do you make believable, easy flowing dialogue? That's a good one. What I've learned, especially for elements of Luna and Origins, is to write as if it's a real conversation between two characters. Have trusted friends to proofread your work and to point out some inconsistencies or odd dialogue. Also, speaking and acting out the scene helps a lot too. You have to put yourself in the mindset of the characters, their language, and timeline where they're from, which isn't easy and can be a little challenging. But all in all, it does become quite fun. What tools do you use to keep your work organized? For digital artwork and writing, I organize them with folders. It's easy to find, and I do title my works. Always, always have external hard drives to back up your files. I have two, and one is already at maximum capacity. Soon I'll be needing a third one, or invest in one of those really expensive and great quality hard drives to store all my work in. As for traditional works, I often buy portfolios to put my sketch pages in, or binders with plastic sleeves to store my art in, as well as having those plastic containers to store my sketchbooks safely so they do not grow mold. I have had that happen to me before with my prints for conventions. Make sure they're not exposed to the air and damp areas. That weird fish asks. Couple of silly questions going on first. Moth backstory, please. So, if anyone wants to know the moth that fish is asking about, it's this little fella that I will be putting on the screen right here. Her name is Lunita, and she is Luna's companion who's often seen in many artworks of her. And sometimes she's around with Crystal in some of the illustrations. How would Nochnoi feel about his thirsty fan base? I really have psychic damage from a lot of memories. So, anyways, Nochnoi is a character from the Elements of Luna universe. When a day comes and he makes his debut in the series, I will not be surprised if history ends up repeating itself. In a nutshell, Tumblr found him. And so did my friends. In character, Nochnoi is someone who loves attention. He's an aerial acrobat from his father's circus, and without any spoilers, their love of attention soon dies, and he is now in hiding. What helps you focus on art that isn't fun to draw? When it came to art that wasn't fun to draw, but I was assigned to do it anyways, I usually listen to musicals or podcasts to work to. Sometimes setting a timer helps a lot to finish it without being agitated or bored with the project. And then there'll be moments where, because you're assigned to do it and because there is a deadline, setting a deadline helps you be more into the zone of getting that project done, even if you're not having fun with it at all. What drawing exercise do you do, if any? I don't really do any drawing exercises, but if I were, it would be gestures to loosen the arm and be more relaxed. And for physical exercise, a lot of arm stretching, and don't forget to rest your body when it needs to rest. Carpal tunnel is certainly no joke. What are your favorite free online resources? I use blambot.com. They're really great for small artists and indie comic book authors. Then there's Clip Studio Assets, where there's a lot of stuff to download that is made by the community and oftentimes free to use. I often use their 3D models and poses the most to help me with my comics. I am still looking for a good free online resource for making interior design backgrounds. I had heard about SketchUp, but when I looked again, it was only a free trial, and now you had to pay for it as a subscription. Nowadays I just go out like for interior design. I go to like take a whole bunch of pictures at IKEA. Or like if I were to go to a cafe that looks really nice and stuff and just take pictures. Honestly, take pictures. Because not only will you take pictures, those pictures and photographs are yours. And you can use it however you want it to be and to help you with your work. How do you balance creative exploration with audience expectations? I do not worry about what the audience thinks about my work. I draw and write for myself without fear of what people think. It all falls under perfectionism and being pressured to fit in when you focus and stress about what other people expect from you. It only ruins your enjoyment of being creative. It's one thing when you're doing critiques and aiming to learn and improve your skills. It's another thing to follow outside expectations to be perfect. Be yourself and don't let the idea of perfectionism and audience expectations ruin your joy. Be your true, authentic self. Any tips for someone wanting to get into streaming their art? I stream for fun. I don't have a set schedule and I'm spontaneous about what I want to stream. I set my stream layout together to fit with my brand just for fun, but I'm not a full time or part time streamer. I'm an artist and writer, and in most cases, I stream working on spoiler free comic pages, character designs, and illustrations. Writing, on the other hand, I don't know how to safely stream that without any major spoilers. I also mix it up and stream video games on the weekends, such as days I take off to rest from drawing, so I don't have to strain my wrists from drawing. Would you rather sketch from a photo or in real life? Why or why not? When I'm outdoors, I'm always on the move, and while it's better to sketch in real life for more accuracy, I always take pictures with my phone for creating a visual library of references. Also, because I'm a comic book artist, I learned how to work smarter, not harder. Many backgrounds that I've used in my artwork are from pictures that I took by drawing over them or using Clipsia Paint's tools to create a hand drawn look to save time. If I referenced a photo from someone else, I would cite the source of the original. That's a very important practice to use, and a good example of that is the Amazing Starcatcher illustration I drew, where I cited the original photographs I referenced. In your opinion, is a character going viral a good or bad thing for your overall brand? If one of my characters went viral for their character design or their story, I would say it's good because more people come over to read my stories and read the comics that they're from. And then there's like analysis and character development. I just love seeing the community really go into like full on depth character analysis, story analysis for a certain character. And if it's the one that went viral, that'd be really interesting to hear everyone's different takes on how the characters are written or how the characters design. And it's really fun. What matters most is also having a very kind-hearted community. And we're having fun here and really just enjoying the story and enjoying the artwork behind the elements of Luna and behind Origins. Artists, creatives you admire. Growing up, I loved the art style from Gurihiru. I'm probably mispronouncing this, but he is the artist of the Avatar Last Airbender comic book series. I've also loved Himoru Arakawa, Akira Himekawa, Tetsuya Nomura, Hayao Miyazaki, and Nanko Takeuchi. Most of it is from my favorite video games, manga, and anime growing up that developed my style today. There's even more artists and more creators that I've loved and admire, and right now I'm just focusing on the ones that inspired my anime like style of today. How do you balance your creative career with other responsibilities, such as school, work, etc.? When I was in university, I did not have any time to work on my creative career. And I would let people know that I'm going to be super busy with university classes. However, depending on the assignment that was given, I would try to use that assignment to help me with my creative career for comics and or my brand, which are really helpful and useful to my time. Now, for work, I work 9 to 5, and after that, I make dinner, do chores, self care, and rest. If I have time in the evening, I'll squeeze that time to work on my comics. Even if it's 15 minutes, it's still progress rather than nothing. Unless I have a cat by the name of Suki sitting on my keyboard and nudging away my mouse for attention. Sketch Moth asks, What inspired your comics and characters? Beyond my love for fantasy, the main thing that inspired me to create my comics and characters is my experiences with spirituality. A lot of my stories have deep meanings behind them. It's for finding our inner light during trials and tribulations, and knowing that we're never alone. Velvet Star Art asks, hello, my question is, do you have any preferred brushes or pens in Clip Studio? Also, I love your floral designs with borders, characters, etc. Do you paint your fave character based in real life? Thank you! My favorite pen in Clip Studio Paint is the Real G pen for the texture and how it's almost looking like it's real ink on paper. Also, thank you so much. And yes, many of my characters are based on real life, be it personal or from nature. For character design writing, LunaLunestia, the protagonist of Elements of Luna, she's based upon my Puerto Rican heritage, and the King of the Sea, is inspired by the oarfish. Anonymous 1 asks, I'd love to see some of your early art and your progress if you're okay with sharing that. How early is early? No worries. I will happily share my works from the early 2000s when I was just starting to draw as a kid to my teenage years in the 2010s. Back then, I learned how to draw by picking up a pencil and paper and also reading how to draw books from the local library. Was Crystal your first character before Luna? Good question. If you're talking about characters from when I first started drawing, that's Spiral the Dragon fangirl era in the 2000s. Crystal was actually a Spiral fan character. She was a dragon once. And as for Luna, she came in a little later as various characters from different fandoms before sticking to something completely her own. Much of the artwork has been lost over time. Sometimes they're the same person, sometimes they split. If anything, the whole design is split into two. Anonymous 2 asks, Blue Eyes, White Dragon, or Dark Magician? Funny you should say that. Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually scared me when I was a little kid, so I never watched it. I like dragons, so I'll just say Blue Eyes, White Dragon. Can you describe your comic like a waiter in a 5-star Michelin restaurant describing an entree? For the appetizer origins, you are greeted with the refreshing but bittersweet taste of the rice from a fall, a dish that is sweet and savory and perfect for the summer days to come. The entree, the Elements of Luna, is a comforting dish that will bring warmth to the bones on a cold winter's night. A large bowl of soup to bundle up onto a snowy day. And finally, according to rumor, there's a little bit of a dessert that is filled with strawberries and cream, or blueberries with lemon crepes. It's all the rage. I wonder what that dessert is. I believe it's called Chronicles, and it's available on Tapas. They're short mini comics, and they're free to read. And that is everything. Thank you guys so much for staying by and watching this whole video. I hope you're able to find anything that can help you guys with any work or that you're doing, be artwork, writing, so on and so forth. And thank you guys so much for asking me these questions so I can make this video. I had a great time working on it. And once again, thank you guys so much for being patient with me while I was making this Q&A video. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys. And if you guys are interested in reading my comics, you can read Origins and the Elements of Luna on my Patreon, Ko-Fi, and Gumroad. The links will be down in the description box below. And Tapas for Elements of Luna Chronicles, which is just like short stories that are free to read. And that will also be in my description box below. Thank you guys again so much and have a wonderful day. See ya!